Welcome everyone. My name is Ianis and I'm the coordinator of BDS Vancouver Salish Territories. We want to start tonight's event by acknowledging that we're on the unceded Salish Territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and as a group in solidarity with the indigenous people of Palestine and their struggle for liberation, we take seriously that that needs to extend to struggles for liberation and self-determination on these territories as well. And I've been tasked to give a sum up of the 2 years of BDS work that we've done as BDS Vancouver Salish Territories. So this is a bit of the overview of what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to share about our assessments, as I said, and summing up of 2 years of work on a number of BDS campaigns. We have some presenters who are going to present on some of the BDS campaigns that we're considering going forward from here. And then we're going to open it up for sharing and discussions on ideas. We called this event partly because we have some ideas of the direction and the campaigns that we're most interested in, but we're interested in community input and what people feel we can really move on. So I'll just give you a little bit of background about BDS Vancouver Salish Territories. So we were formed in the follow-up to the 2014 Israeli attack on Gaza. And we were actually formed coming out of an event highlighting the campaign to free Ahmed Sadat and all Palestinian prisoners. We decided early on to establish ourselves as a committee of the Canada-Palestine Association in order to connect to their rich history of principled solidarity work and ground our BDS work in a context of broader support for Palestinian liberation, anti-racism, and anti-imperialism. And this is just a quote from our basis of unity that's kind of defining for us. Regardless of its national and/or geographic location, any company, organization, or institution that is empowering Israeli war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid is complicit in them, and accordingly is subject to the economic and cultural boycott call. So our strategic perspective is that BDS is a unifying, effective, and sustainable tactic for Palestine solidarity movement at this juncture, in this moment. And we try to wage strategic BDS campaigns based on an assessment of the current conjuncture. We want our campaigns to connect to and support the struggles of the Palestinian masses in Palestine, in the refugee camps, and in the Shatat. And we maintain our connection to the struggles of Palestinian prisoners, and I just wanted to highlight this particularly in light of the current situation in Palestine, where there's now about 1,500 or more Palestinian prisoners on hunger strike, going into day 11, some of them in quite deteriorating health. So we want to continue to show solidarity with their struggle, and actually at the end of the night, we hope folks will join us for a group picture with some of the posters so that we can show that solidarity and post that up. And Marion also said I should share, I'm currently just at the very beginning stages of a 24-hour fast in solidarity, and there is a call for people to do 24-hour fasts and mark it in your Facebook status and tell your friends and coworkers as a way of spreading the word about what's going on in terms of the hunger strike. So I'm going to quickly kind of summarize some of the campaigns that we've done as BDS Vancouver Salish Territories over the last couple of years. And then I'm going to share some strategic lessons with you and some of the criteria that we're thinking to use in identifying our next campaigns. So the first campaign that we launched was the Air Canada campaign, calling for a boycott of Air Canada based particularly on its contract with an Israeli war contractor to do maintenance of its planes on their flights through the Middle East. And the name of the contractor is Israeli Aerospace Industries. So we like this campaign because it exposes and opposes Canadian support for Israeli war industries, Canadian corporate support particularly, but given Air Canada's history as a crown corporation, it's actually also Canadian state support. We viewed it mainly as an educational campaign that involved letter writing, petitions, articles, and online materials. We think there is, although we haven't yet necessarily seen a huge economic impact and take up in the campaign, there is potential, and particularly in a situation of escalation of violence and attacks and occupation, it's a thing that we could push in terms of real economic pressure, especially in terms of Air Canada having quite a lot of flights to Arab countries that are mainly Arab folks who are taking those flights who, for the most part, feel this sense of solidarity, so trying to push people to act on that. And there's also connection to trade union struggles against privatization and contracting out in that campaign, because the jobs that were contracted out to the Israeli profiteers were not supposed to be. They were supposed to be jobs that, as a condition of the privatization of Air Canada, were going to be kept in Canada. So there's a group of workers that have been organizing around this as well. The second campaign that we launched was the campaign to boycott and divest from G4S, which was a part of a broad international campaign, so it was easy for us to pick that one and join in. It's obviously a really good educational campaign in terms of exposing and opposing the repressive infrastructure of the occupation because of G4S's role in the prisons and checkpoints and the apartheid wall. It was also a good opportunity to connect to other struggles. So in our research and developing our analysis leading up to launching that campaign, we looked at the role that G4S is playing in terms of providing security to tar sands operations in Alberta, in running immigration detention centers in Toronto and the East, and of course to a really kind of crass, repressive corporate militarization around the world in places like the Philippines and East Africa. We did run into some difficulties in the campaign in terms of targets. So G4S doesn't have a huge public presence in our region. They have a small office out near the airport, which we picketed to our credit. But there wasn't a lot of easy targets. It's really hard to find information about what their private contracts are. So the one that we knew about was the major contract that they have with the airport. And we did try to lean on the Airport Authority and CATSA, which is the Canadian Air Transportation Security Authority, who does the contracting out of that position. But it was very difficult to figure out who we could actually put pressure on in that campaign in terms of mobilizing. So it was difficult finding ways to participate in the campaign, because G4S obviously is not a popular consumer product that people can easily boycott or identify on shelves. And now the G4S it looks like G4S is mostly pulling out of its or selling off its operations in Israel. I think it's important to continue to carry the campaign. G4S is a really evil corporation all around the world, and we should maintain our solidarity with other communities who also have campaigns against G4S. So then the campaign that we had that was most active this summer is the Boycott Israeli Wines campaign. And this one was really good because there's lots of targets to mobilize around. Every BC liquor store, not everyone carries the Israeli wines actually, but there's a good handful of them that do. And they have this a bit of a sense of being public spaces, so we felt pretty comfortable in terms of like going in there and doing actions and actually getting right into the stores. And opportunities for tactical experimentation. So hopefully people have seen the videos of going in the stores, and we had the Solidarity Notes Choir join in on a number of the actions and come into the stores with us and sing, which was a really powerful kind of direct action tactic, as well as printing stickers that people could sticker onto the Israeli wine bottles. It was a good avenue for public education and participation because it is a relatively common consumer product that people can boycott, and you can talk to people about their decision making around whether they would buy Israeli wines or not. There was some potential for economic impact. Certainly it seems like Israel is worried about boycotts specifically targeting the wines. And it drove the Zionists crazy that we could do these actions, and we didn't. We were I guess tactical in terms of how we did the action. So generally didn't announce broadly where we were going to be, so they would just see it on the social media, the outcomes. So it was good in terms of like showing the direct impact, and also they would do a significant amount of our publicity work for us after the fact by spreading the the video and the posts about the actions far and wide. So in terms of, I want to draw some broad lessons from the work we've done in terms of what I think has been important and effective. And we've had some discussion, quite a bit of discussion in the group about this, but some of this is also my own my own kind of spin on it. So if folks in the group have differences, we can certainly bring that up in the discussion. But I think it's been a strength of this group that we've been able to connect to the central issues and urgent calls of the Palestinian liberation struggle. So connecting to prisoners, talking about children, child prisoners has been a really important part of our work in terms of grounding us and not getting caught up in BDS as a tactic in and of itself, because it really is mainly a tactic to support a people who are in struggle on the ground in so many ways. We've been able to connect to other progressive movements and struggles and liberation struggles, and I think that's an important thing to continue to do, that the fate of Palestinian liberation is locked up in a broader struggle against imperialism, and that broad struggle against imperialism is also very much dependent on the continued Palestinian resistance. Those are really inextricable things, and we need to build those alliances in order to be powerful enough to win on multiple fronts, not only to win the liberation of Palestine. To be tactically creative and persistent. So I mentioned the stickers on the wine bottles. We did the direct actions of going in the stores. I think we need to be even more tactically creative in terms of how we get the word out there. There's a lot of popular support for Palestine right now, and we need to really tap into that and make people excited about this as something that's kind of on their mind in an everyday way about supporting this struggle. And to be bold and unafraid and know that justice is on our side. So again, not being, it was the people were quite hesitant the first time we went into the liquor store, and I think felt emboldened by it, and I think we need to continue to put this in people's faces, right? You know, especially given Canada's continued awful support for the Israeli occupation and apartheid regime. We need to put this in people's faces and make them think about it, not in a way of necessarily being confrontational, but in a way of not being afraid of putting our ideas out there. So we have some ideas in terms of criteria for what types of campaigns we want to do, and in some ways this is just a reiteration of the lessons, but connecting strongly to the central issues of the Palestinian liberation struggle. Doing campaigns that give a variety of opportunities for popular education on multiple platforms, so face-to-face contact with people is super important. Workshops, seminars, social media, we need to have campaigns that are able to connect us in all these different ways to people. I think it's important to continue to have the idea of having potential to have direct economic impact on institutions participating and profiting from the occupation. I mean, that's kind of the principle of BDS, and some of what we do probably is fairly symbolic. It's hard to know with a campaign like G4S. You know, they sold their interest in Israel. It was bought up by an Israeli firm. Is that really having an economic impact? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, I think there's debate about that. But we need to definitely be carrying some campaigns where we really feel like we can have an economic impact. both because that's one of the principles of the tactic and one of the things that's been effective about it, but also because it's one of the things that brings people into wanting to participate in BDS, and coming into BDS is a good way of introducing people to being part of this broader solidarity. People want to do actions and take political action that they think is actually going to have an impact, and that isn't purely symbolic. We want to have the possibility of reaching out and building links with other liberation struggles and social movements. I touched on that. And connect to active BDS campaigns internationally to amplify our voices. So I think the G4S campaign is a good example of one that really had a lot of international resonance and actions all over the place, and was able to get a lot of traction in that way. So it's good to look for other campaigns that we can, people across the world can unite around. That's an effective thing too. So that's it for my presentation. Marion just wanted me to add before the end that the next thing that we have planned is the annual picket at the JNF Fundraiser. That's coming up on June 4th. And today has this year has some special significance because they're billing it as celebrating the 50th anniversary of the reunification of Jerusalem. So I think it's really important for us to be out there and be very strong again this year. So June 4th at 4:30 p.m. for sure, Canada-Palestine Association and BDS Vancouver will be out in front of the Four Seasons Hotel doing the annual picket against the JNF, and we hope to have the numbers that we can actually really, I think we should be standing in people's way when they're trying to go into that horrible, horrendous event, and not making it easy for folks just to walk in there and participate. So. Before we go to general discussion, I think what we wanted to do was present some of the campaigns that we've discussed internally as potential campaigns. We want to share that with folks here and get feedback from you about what you think would be the most effective.
So what happened was every year UBC, should I be like a rock singer?
Yes.
Okay, so every year at UBC we try to pass the bill to approve BDS in campus. I think this year was an attempt in SFU, or the movement in SFU is growing as well. By the UBC bylaw, you need to go through several steps. The first one is collect 1,000 signatures to be able to have a referendum on the issue. And then the second one is in the referendum, you need 8,000 votes and a majority of yes vote. 8,000 because now it's 10,000 because it seems to be 1/5 of the total population of UBC, and then have a majority. So actually we need 5,000 votes for yes option. That's really hard because no election, no referendum ever get 10,000 people to vote because it's an email that nobody answers, or it's in a web page that nobody sees. So the only way to do it is put the question in the actual ballot for the general AMS election, which is the only way that 20,000 people will answer an email out of 50,000. So that's the process we have been going through in the first one was 2015.
Yes. Yeah.
14, 15, and then this year. We skip 1 year. And this year, first year was tough, and we get the signatures, and finally, but the problem is, since the counterpart, our Hiller House, our beloved friends from the Hiller House, they put obstacles all the time and different kind of legal or pseudo-legal barriers. They get too delayed, so we cannot put the questions in the final ballot, in the AMS vote, which is in March. So it's always like the first time was a referendum like end of April, and of course just 5,000 people replied in. This year they try again, but they have no, basically the AMS already we passed before, so they have to do something different this time, and they try going to a court. The first instance court failed in our favor, so they went to the Supreme Court of BC, and after 2 days of the, how do you call those? Debate? Hearing. Oh, yeah, lawyer. Yeah. The judge did a 2-day hearing. Finally, he said that BDS is a controversial political issue that needs, and the scope of a university totally includes political issues and involving human rights like that. So the Supreme Court felt that BDS can be discussed and voted in a university. Well, finally, after all the struggle, we went to the vote, and even the EMS didn't send the email to ask for the people to vote. So you have to go voluntarily and vote. So I'm on our network, who will go to a web page, find a hidden link that takes you to a vote. So the vote went, we get like 1,300 votes for yes, 1,400 for no. This kind of time, no votes, no one. But again, with low quorum, so it doesn't have any validity. So, but the good news is the Supreme Court said BDS needs to be treated, so all the legal instances are already failed. So I think my hope is that next year we'll have a more proactive committee in the AMS, in SPHR in UBC, and we can promote it and go to the final ballot straight away without any obstacles, because all the obstacles were already passed. I mean, Supreme Court, I don't think they can appeal to the Federal Supreme Court. So that's the current status. And the other good news is, since the Supreme Court of BC already failed in our favor, saying that BDS can be voted in universities, that opened the door to every university basically, because it's a precedent to say, okay, almost in all the province and all the countries. Already a Supreme Court said that yes, you can discuss about that. So that's, I think, we should focus on that, put energy on UBC and SFU for next year. Real impact of that, really low. It's more like a political statement. Don't expect that UBC and SFU will change dramatically the policy. More than mutual agreements with Israeli universities or something like that is not much. Are probably some of the funds. That's the part of, we haven't researched much. We haven't that much research. How much of the funds from UBC, from retirement or the saving money from the university go to mutual funds that have stocks in Israel? That's the research we haven't done, so we have no idea what can we reach in that way. Last year, previous to the election, the current Prime Minister went to UBC and said there's no room for BDS in campuses. He said that, and I was there, so I'm totally sure that he said that. But now the Supreme Court said that there is room for the BDS in campuses. So I love it. I love that the three powers of the state are totally separated in this country.
Thank you.
So next, Marion is going to tell us a little bit about the Air Canada campaign, which is an ongoing campaign.
You want to sit?
Okay, so Ionis already gave a bit of information on the Air Canada campaign, so people, I think, have the general background. But just to refresh a little bit, about 2 years ago, we discovered that Air Canada was announcing that they were going to be servicing their B787 jets, which is the new big ones that they were bringing in. And the servicing for it was going to be done in Tel Aviv by Israeli Aerospace Industries. So at first we were kind of like, some people were sort of like almost didn't believe it. They thought it was kind of astounding. Why would they be going over there to do their maintenance? It seemed almost implausible, but indeed it is. It was the case, and it was true. And I think Israeli Aerospace Industries also services some 767 jets as well, and we're hoping that getting a high-profile contract with Air Canada would then also lead them to getting more contracts with other airlines as well. So we started the campaign then. Do you have the petition up?
No.
Yeah, we started 2 years ago. We did a fair amount of social media publicity. We started a petition, I think it's coming up now, and to the CEO of Air Canada. And we also aim to make it a global campaign as well, because of course, you know, Air Canada flies to a lot of different countries, and there's people from other countries that might choose Air Canada to fly here, but if they knew the information of their complicity with Israeli war crimes, they perhaps would choose a different airline. So we wanted to make the campaign global as well, which was good. It's been translated into French, it's been translated into Spanish, and it has actually gotten a fair amount of coverage and a fairly high profile, but we're hoping now to kind of take it to the next step. There's a new coalition in Canada. I don't know if people are that aware of it. It's called the Canadian BDS Coalition, and it includes groups from Halifax all the way to Victoria, groups that are focusing on BDS. That coalition just recently agreed to take on the Air Canada campaign because they're interested in focusing on the military embargo aspect of BDS against the state of Israel, because that's sort of another point people feel is really strategic, is to target the military industry and the military defense companies, which is a direct connection with what's going on with Air Canada. It's a division of Israeli aerospace industries that does the work on these civilian aircrafts, but it's all one company. It's all completely linked. And actually, Israeli Aerospace Industries is one of the, how did they explain it even on their own website? They're like one of the pioneers of the Israeli military defense industry. They're owned by the Israeli government. They're wholly owned by the Israeli government as well. So it's kind of a direct complicity there. It's not like it's a tenuous connection at all. So so the BDS Coalition, if people want to check out that new group, their website is bdscoalition.ca, bdscoalition.ca. So they are taking on this campaign as well, and our hope now to kind of take it to the next step is to try to get church groups, union groups, community groups to agree to endorse the call to boycott Air Canada. I should say, as an aside, we do realize that there are some people living in remote communities who don't have a choice but to fly Air Canada, because that's the only airlines that services their community. So we realize that situation exists. And actually, there was one woman who signed the petition, the one that Hannah had up on the screen, and the comment she put on the petition was, because she was in one of these smaller communities, "I resent Air Canada forcing me to use my money to support Israeli war crimes," because she was in the position she had no other choice, right? There was no other airlines that went in and out of her small community. So that's our push now, and that's what the BDS Coalition is going to work on as well. If people, when they leave, over on the table there beside where Ioannis is standing, this is the latest update. It's the second one, if you want to just put it up. Yeah. This is the latest updated statement that we've put out as a committee, and it's basically emphasizing the points that we're trying to reach out now more to to union groups and church groups and community groups, and to get people to at least get informed about this situation and put pressure on Air Canada to stop this infamous behavior, basically, because it's as I said, it's a direct connection to the Israeli military industry, and it's not only shocking that they're doing it, but if people think about it, for people outside of Canada, when they see Air Canada doing something like this, it kind of reflects on people who live here as well, because they kind of look at it as representative of what the population here must believe in. So I think on many levels it's something we really need to target and deal with, and so we're hoping this year to try to ratchet up the campaign. Just one last note, so far this has always been a online educational petition letter writing campaign. We haven't yet done the kind of direct actions that people were talking about that we did with the wine campaign, simply because we weren't you know, there wasn't, similar to the G4S, there wasn't one really good target to be able to do that. But we feel so far it's been successful as an online campaign. We would just like to broaden it and get more groups in to endorse it. So that's one of the campaigns we're hoping to work on in the future. And we can talk about it later, I guess. Are you having, I think Ioannis is going to have general discussion at the end.
Yeah, I think if there's any like specific questions about the Air Canada campaign as it's been so far, then folks could make those. Otherwise, we'll move on and we'll just discuss them all at the end.
I'm wondering what kind of actions that we might do for the Air Canada. Would we look at the airport or go to travel agencies? Or
I think that's why up to this point we've had it mostly as an online and educational campaign, because we weren't sure exactly what would be the most effective kind of public action. We want to get people as individuals to, wherever possible, boycott Air Canada. But I think Air Canada's biggest trade is in their corporate customers, their union customers, these organizations and companies that have like huge contracts with them, and they just go to them without even thinking, right?
Well, and there's a lot of Visa cards that are points.
Yes,
for
yes,
Air
and all of the
Canada.
points plans and all of that. Yeah, we have a friend that's on the Social Justice Committee of the BCTF, and they have meetings 3-4 times a year. They bring people in from all over the province, and they're dealing strictly with Air Canada. So we're trying to talk with them to pressure them to change that. But I think a lot of those kind of contracts exist with groups and organizations.
You know, Air Canada, by many people, in many people's mind, is seen as a fairly benign corporation. They're proud of it. It's a national carrier. I mean, there's a lot of room there to just step back a little bit and to kind of tell people. I mean, this is news. I mean, it's not news to me, but I bet many people don't know about this. And it would be a very good first start just to say, hey, are you aware that Air Canada is involved with this process?
Mm-hmm. You could even do it as a did you know kind of thing. That's a good idea.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, before going out there and protesting, I mean, I think it's important to build up a kind of community of aware people that are mindful of what's, it's just,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But I think
I'll
Thanks,
pass
mate.
it back to you.
Okay, so we're going to try to get through these pitches so that we can have time for a good discussion at the end. Next, we have Alan, who's going to talk about a company that's been on our radar for a while, and Alan gave a really awesome pitch within our committee for boycotting Teva, so he's gonna do his teacher thing.
Yeah. My name is Alan Roberts, and I'm a member of the BDS and Canada-Palestine Association. We have been talking this year about what our campaign strategy would be for this year, and we decided that we would tackle Air Canada first, and perhaps look at a program against Teva, targeting Teva Pharmaceuticals in Israel later, after we do more Air Canada activism. Teva is one of the world's largest generic drug makers. Generic drug is a drug that is, for those of you who don't know, they're drugs that have been around for a while, that are made very cheaply. There's usually only a few generic drug makers, the actual manufacturers. It's like household appliances, you know, the washing machines and dryers and that. There's only a few makers, but everybody wants to put their own label on them. And drugs are a lot like that. So whether Teva is a manufacturer, partly manufacturer, or just a distributor, doesn't really matter, because they are selling these drugs and benefiting not only their own company, which is taking over land in occupied Palestine, but of course supporting the Israeli government with taxes. I was amazed at how ubiquitous Teva is. I went to the pharmacy myself just about 2 months ago, and I got a prescription, and it was filled with Teva. next time I went to have it filled, I said, well, I can't have Teva. Oh, that's no trouble. There's 8 or 10 different companies, different brands of whatever high blood pressure drug I was on. And so, and the pharmacist was willing to bring in any other brand. So you have to realize, I'm speaking as a former pharmacist myself, that you are in control, you're the customer, and you don't have to take what they give you. You can ask for what you need. And so what we plan to do is to do some actions, much like our wine campaign, and target some high volume drugstores with stickers like have them passed out to you, and signs like the one you see up at the front, and to make it an educational campaign so that people are aware that when they are buying their pharmaceuticals, that they are supporting an injustice in the Middle East. One way we can do that, if you look at the smaller pieces, I've chopped these out of a full page. This is a full page of the little 3 pieces here. And they're little transparent stickers that we can ask people to put on their prescriptions. And it simply says, no Teva with the ISO International Prohibition sign, the red circle with a slash, and the Teva logo behind. And it says, dear pharmacist, please don't fill my prescription with Teva drugs. Teva, why is Teva so ubiquitous? I think they're probably offering a very good price for what they have. And also, the pharmacies, especially the big chain pharmacies in Vancouver area, have a Zionist character. They're owned by people and run by people who want to support Israel, right or wrong. Okay, and our job, of course, is to show them that they're wrong. So, although we don't have a specific action plan right now, it's what we can do is just act individually and take some of these stickers. If the few that I've given you don't suffice, you can, I'll put my contact information on the board. I'll send you a page or whatever number you want, as long as they get used up. Young people, take them for your parents and grandparents. Everybody's got medicines, right? So, and ask them to put these on.
Alan,
yes.
When you were saying that drugstores, there's Zionists running these drugstores, are you talking specifically about London Drugs, or?
I'm talking specifically about London Drugs, and my pharmacy, the one that I went to for my blood pressure pills, was called CARE, C-A-R-E. They're a big chain in Vancouver right now. There's a branch out at UBC, one in the North Shore, and others in the Lower Mainland. And they buy their drugs centrally and distribute them to their individual pharmacies. And apparently they're favoring Teva, whether it's because of support for Zionism, or whether it's just they get a great price. I don't know, but are there any other questions about this campaign? Or low-key campaign, I should say. It's not going to be an action, but we can certainly start doing things on an individual basis to promote that.
I just think we should be starting even with letters to pharmacists, just information.
Pharmacists are in between a hard place and a rock. Their employer wants them to dispense one drug. So if they, raise their head and said that they can't, that could be a problem. It wouldn't hurt to inform them in case there is wiggle room. You're quite right on that. And that should be one of our objectives, is to contact pharmacists.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
We also like the Teva campaign because there's a real way to do individual political education one-on-one with people and have them take a very immediate action. So that was one of the real strengths going forward. So the last campaign that we're going to pitch
is the HP campaign, which in some places has kind of supplanted the G4S campaign in terms of bringing attention to issues around Palestinian prisoners and security. So one of the groups that we've had lots of kind of parallel activities with is the Samidun chapter in New York, which was doing weekly pickets of the G4S headquarters in New York, and now they've switched to really focusing on the HP boycott, and it's been taken up internationally too. So Hannah's going to give us more background and information about that campaign.
Yeah, thanks, Leon.
Do you want the mic?
Sure, yeah. I'm just gonna start with two videos, short, very short videos. Both of them is just maybe 2 minutes. So let's just give some background about the issue. The second video is really in Arabic, but it's there is subtitles there, and it's in the voices of the Palestinian people.
حياتنا تكنولوجيا،
هي الطريقة اللي بنتواصل فيها،
نستخدمها للمعرفة
وبتسلينا. خلت العالم قرية صغيرة.
بس أنا مش قادر أطلع من قريتي.
لما الاحتلال بيشتري التكنولوجيا
من شركة بتدعمه في انتهاكه لحق الشعب الفلسطيني،
وبيستعملها ضدي
وضدي
وضدي
وضدي، لازم تفرق معي.
انتظار،
تفتيش، إهانة،
ومراقبة.
ومحتال بيستخدم هاي التكنولوجيا ليجمع بيانات ويحللها
ويسلبنا أرضنا
ويحمي مستعمرات غير شرعية.
بيمنعني من حقي في الحركة
وفي العمل،
في التعليم، أساسيات في الحياة.
أشياء بسيطة.
أساسيات في الحياة، أشياء بسيطة صغيرة مهمة،
لأنها بتفرق معانا
ولأنها لازم تفرق معنا،
بتأثر، لأنها مسؤولية وطنية،
لأنها لازم تفرق معنا.
So, yeah, this is just some background information, and it's worth noting that there was a campaign internationally just a couple of months ago where actions were waged in 150 places all over the world against HP, and it seems the action was so successful that it affected HP, because I just give some background about it. In 2015, HP split into HP and HPE, which is HP Enterprise. And then just a couple of months ago, they did the same thing like with the G4S, where HP divested from the Israeli company, and they call it now DXC. DXC is running all the things you saw in the movie, basically, and they're playing dirty tricks like the same with the G4S, where they disassociate themselves from the company. And but the important thing, it did work. The boycott campaign did work, because if they felt comfortable, usually companies solidify, not they split usually. You know, especially these multinationals, they try to solidify rather than split. So clearly, and was discussion all over North America. There was a conference call just last week, and they were discussing whether to declare, because this is recent, just maybe a few weeks ago what happened. They split, the DXC split from HP. It's just very recent. So there were discussion. I attended the conference call with the people from North America, including Jewish Voice for Peace. They were the initiator on the call, and they were the ones who really initiated the HP campaign, where 150 places took part. So they were talking about declaring partial victory, which people felt it's premature now, and also they're waiting for the PNC, which is the Boycott, Divestment, Sanction National Committee in Palestine, to see what they think. So, but it seems, you know, I expect them at least to do the same like what they did with G4S. You know, that's fine, you divested from them, but you didn't take action, and you didn't apologize, you didn't say, you know, what you were doing was wrong, or etc., etc. So I believe they'll continue the boycott, and there is still discussion whether to declare partial victory or not going on, and the people in North America, as I said, are waiting for the decision of the PNC back home. So this is in a nutshell, and I think the HP is also individual-oriented campaign, that anybody could do it. You know, you don't have to you know, picket companies or etc. All you have to do is just don't buy that product. And you know, the campaign was flexible. You know. To say, you know, if you have HP printer or computer, throw it in the garbage. You know, it doesn't make sense. You know, they won't say that. You know, you use it, but till it's finished, you could replace it with something other than HP. And if you're using toners or cartridges from HP, you don't have to go buy new ones. You could refill them. Which is cheaper anyway. I'm not sure if people are aware. For example, Costco, which carries HP, the Costco has a refilling station there. They charge for the cartridge $10 for the you know, replacement of the HP thing, whether color or black. You know, so I mean, people could boycott HP, and then when they finish with their product and they want to buy a new computer or new printer or whatever, they could change then, you know. But it seems so far it was very effective. I don't know if they know what we are doing, because every time I open my Facebook, there is a sponsored ad for HP on it. So it's really funny, you know.
They're fighting back.
Yeah, it's not once or twice, you know. I get it all the time, you know, it's a sponsored ad, you know, which is crazy. But I think it's important to keep the pressure, and, you know, the fact that they did participate in the war crimes, like we stated at the beginning, make them complicit in it. Unless they compensated the Palestinian and apologized for what they did, they should still be boycotted. This is my own opinion. I don't know if the PNC will agree with me, but thank you.
Should we go at all to Costco to inform, not the Costco people, but public on a Saturday when everybody's going in to buy stuff? Should we hand out flyers informing them about HP?
It's not just Costco. Everybody carries.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Best Buy.
We're going to open up for general discussion about
sure.
the tactics in a second. Can I just ask one clarifying question? So did they split off their Israel operations but it's still a subsidiary?
No, it's not. They
sold it.
They're not saying really.
Oh.
They're keeping secretive, and people trying to investigate whether still the shareholders of the new one there is overlap.
Yeah.
They haven't declared that. They did it in a really dirty way. So people are still trying to investigate this issue. And they're keeping secretive, really, which makes it suspicious, really. Yeah.
Can we show the Boycott Israeli Wines video just before we get into the...
Sure.
I think it's a good thing to get us into the discussion, just in terms of showing some action.
80,000 hits?
Yes,
Yeah.
this one.
No, this is the second one, I think.
No, it's the
It's first one? Okay.
This is a good one.
That's the one.
Boycott Israeli wine! Free, free Palestine! Boycott Israeli wine! Free, free Palestine! Boycott Israeli wine! Free, free Palestine! Boycott Israeli wine!
Free Palestine!
Boycott Israeli wine!
Free, free Palestine!
Boycott Israeli wine! Israeli wine!
Free, free Palestine!
Boycott 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 Israeli wine!
Excuse me. I just want to bless the Italian wine. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You go for it. That's how coming through.
Yeah, you have wine from the Golan Heights right there. If I could
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Boycott Israeli wine, we shall not be moved. Boycott Israeli wine, we shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Free, free Palestine, we shall not be moved. Free, free Palestine, we shall not be moved, just like a tree